So this is something I saw some pro-regime Iranians sharing, and they were jizzing over this. They love this. Okay, so pro-regime Iranians are a minority of Iranians, and the radical religious Iranians who are pro-regime, they are loving these protests. You saw Khamenei tweeting about this and celebrating it. So you actually have to wonder if the regime, if the mullahs in Iran and these radicals in Iran are enjoying your protest, then maybe that's a moment for self-reflection. But so they're praying. The students are praying in a place that is blocking everybody, and they're not supposed to be, and they don't have any permit. And obviously, the university has a right to come and clean up this mess. But that will create a victim, like a video that you could put out for showing how you're the victim. Because imagine a video of students praying an Islamic prayer, their Islamic prayer, and American police coming and trying to stop them from praying. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was not designed so that this happens, because it shows like their narrative of we are the oppressee and they're the oppressors, and look who the people who are praying are being oppressed by this evil American empire. Nothing captures all of that messaging, all of that framing better than this video that they have managed to get out of these protests. So look at what's happening here. They're telling there's some students are praying, and the other students are blocking the police and saying, let them pray. See, you see, these are revolutions, both good and baseless revolutions. Both of them are made from propaganda like this, right? This is very powerful, and you can see how they could use a video like this to show how they're in the right and others are in the wrong. Okay, so a lot of you saw this video. I just want to add something to it, but for those who haven't, let's just watch this one more time. So this was a PhD student from Columbia University who ended up asking for humanitarian aid while they were protesting. Humanitarian aid. I think nothing makes light of the suffering of people in Gaza more than privileged students asking for humanitarian aid. But let's watch this one more time.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation?
Die from dehydration and starvation. Okay, may I remind you, it takes months for somebody to, like, many weeks for at least somebody to die from starvation, and the water is running in the university, right? So you could go and turn on the tap water and there's water running. So there's that. But also, let me actually bring this up.
Or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you. If the answer is no, then you should allow basic. I mean, it's crazy to
So she's like, okay, they should allow us to bring food and water in.
Say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for.
They're asking for humanitarian aid on an Ivy League university while they're protesting. They're asking for humanitarian aid. When I say these people have a revolution fetish, that they want to be part of they look at people in Gaza and like, how could I have some of that but without the death and destruction and my house falling on my head, but the feeling like I'm part of the revolution without all the suffering. That's what they want. Like, I want to be feeling like I'm a hero in the story, and I'm oppressed, and I'm fighting against this empire, and I'm fighting against oppression. I don't want to be hungry or thirsty or, have my house destroyed or any of the harsh. I just want the feeling part. The feeling part of being part of a revolution, being a revolutionary, without all the hardship part. So when she says like we want humanitarian aid, it's because this is LARPing. They think like they act. Look at this. She's also wearing the kafia. They want the feel. They look at people in Gaza and like, I'm jealous of that. I want that, but without the suffering. How could I have that? All right. So they're asking for humanitarian aid,
Like,
right?
could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves in that very deliberately, in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building, now would you please bring us food?
Yeah.
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
They're stopping the delivery of food.
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it.
So it's like, so you guys want to be revolutionary and you're asking them to bring you food while you're doing the revolution, and like, no, we're not asking them to bring us food. We're just asking for a commitment not to stop us from bringing food, so which is kind of contradicts her asking for humanitarian aid part. And somebody else asked her, is anybody stopping you from bringing food? It's like, no, but we're just asking for a commitment, okay?
But they haven't stopped it.
I don't know to what extent.
So she's worried about starving and dehydration and people dying from thirst before anybody even stopped water or food coming into the university. Like, okay, can we make sure people, again, does this not take attention away from the actual suffering of people in Gaza to you?
It has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
All right, so the interesting part is, I wanted to add, is that the campus dining was open during this time. Okay, so hold on. Yeah, the dining, okay, so let me see the correction that I was saying. Per Columbia campus, dining is open. Yeah, during the time that she was asking, the dining room and everything was open and serving food. So that was interesting. All right, so actually, let me show you. Oh, this is what I want to show you about, read to you about this woman, okay? Because a lot of people don't understand what's happening here. And this, I want to tie this to, I am an Iranian. I'm an ex-Muslim Iranian. I'm an Iranian Canadian, right? This is a PhD student in Columbia, and she's a radical leftist with a revolution fetish. And I want to tie these things together because I have produced a lot of content here and other places I've been a guest to, showing you how many Iranians support Israel. And a lot of people are confused about why Iranians are supporting Israel. And they're also confused about how do we have privileged, educated, elite students and academia in general taking such insane positions sometimes. And what is it with radical leftism that keeps creeping into academia? And I want to tie these two together. One thing that makes Iranians support Israel is because Iranians have been here before. More than 40 years ago, we saw exactly the same thing happening in our country. We saw academia being taken over by communists. So this is another brand of radical leftism. This is woke radical leftism. Back then it wasn't woke. Back then it was Marxist, right? So Iran's academia became taken over ideologically by radical leftist ideas. And what they did was that they theorized an ideology that started a unity between them and the Islamists in Iran. And they started an unnecessary revolution because leftists have a revolution fetish. We saw them. We were in a country that was growing economically, industrially, standard of living, education, healthcare, freedom was increasing. The country was moving rapidly in the direction for more freedom. Women were being given the right to vote. Iran was progressing faster than many European countries. And then we had these leftists and Islamists unite with each other against imperialism, against capitalism, against the West, against the government at the time. And the revolution, the Islamic Revolution of 1979 happened. And what the result of that was that we lost the country. We saw what happened. We saw the result of that. So when you look at Iranians today, Iranians are the people. So what you're saying happening in Europe and in North America, it might be new to you guys, but for Iranians, this is deja vu. And they lost a country. They paid a country for that mistake. And that because of that experience, that is why they're right now, most of them are on the right side of history, because they have been educated. They have paid the highest price for this education. If you go look at all the economic estimates for where Iran would be right now economically if the revolution of 1979 did not happen, all the estimates, the lowest is somewhere as much as South Korea, and to the highest estimates as much as Germany. That was supposed to be the today's Iran would have been an Iran with an economy somewhere between South Korea and Germany today. And that's what we have lost. We now have a theocracy that is oppressing and killing and torturing and RIPing dissidents, oppressing women, oppressing LGBT, oppressing Jews, oppressing any source of descent, lack of freedom, Sharia law forced upon the people, and a ruined economy, and no relationship, no normal relationship with the rest of the world. This is what we paid when Islamists and leftists came together and took over our academia, and the academia managed to do what? Build a unity with the mosques. There was a unity between leftist academia and the network that the mosques had access to. And this is why this is deja vu, and this is why Iranians are standing up against this, because they're seeing this and they cannot believe that Westerners are doing the same. Like, do you not see the history? Like, listen, we have been here. Please listen to us. We know what the end of this looks like. I wrote an article, by the way, about this on Queer Majority. If you guys want to just search for Queer Majority Armin, you'll see my articles. And the name of this article, I could just put the link to it in the live chat. I go through this in a lot of detail in that article, and it's called "By Any Means Necessary: Iran, Hamas, and the Left." Okay, I'll put the link to that article for anybody who wants to know why Iranians have these views these days. Is because of this. Okay, so why did I give you all that context? Because I want you to understand why is academia the place that leftists go and infiltrate? Like academia, the humanities within academia, because it's harder to do that with STEM and other places of academia. But ever since Marx, and what happened was a lot of leftists used academically sound, the complexity of language and the complexity of academic wording of things as a way to disguise their horrible ideas as something nuanced and intelligent, right? Because academia, in academia, a lot of people who are not familiar with their vocabulary and the way that they use they use language, they look at what comes out of academia and they assume they must be all intelligent and this is something that is above their head. And when Marx theorized his, when he had his books out, the way that he talked about these things were very complicated, and it became a virtue signal for a lot of leftists to read theory and act like they're elites and above other people because they understand these things. So basically, complicated wording of really bad ideas became a cover for how bad these ideas are. So academia was a very good place for leftists to hide their ideas behind complicated wording of things. And the reason why I'm telling you all this is why academia became a good hiding spots for really horrible ideas, especially the humanities, right? Not the STEM and stuff. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is because once you go, I went and looked into this PhD student, and I just wanted to read to you what her dissertation is about. Okay, so you can go look this up. I'm not making this up. This is a PhD student, and this is her dissertation. Okay, let me actually bring her. Yeah, okay. My dissertation is on the fantasies of limitless energy in the transatlantic romantic imagination from 1760 to 1860. Again, one more time, in case you didn't understand that. My dissertation is on fantasies of limitless energy in the transatlantic romantic imagination from 1760 to 1860. My goal is to write a prehistory of metabolic rift, Marx's term for the disruption of energy circuits caused by industrialization under capitalism. And then she continues, I am particularly interested in theories of the imagination and poetry as interpreted through a Marxian lens in order to update and propose an alternative to historicist ideological critiques of the romantic imagination. You're getting all that, guys? And then it continues, prior to joining Columbia, I worked as a political strategist for leftist and progressive causes and remain active in the higher education labor movement. All right. I just wanted you to all have a little bit of context before I read you her dissertation, right?